When you remove the barriers between you and the divine, and that means taking away and dissolving. Barbara talked about dissolving your stories, dissolving your narratives into the core of your being, allowing the light within you to dissolve those misconceptions about who you are, those painful stories you carried your whole entire life. And become the embodied presence, become transfigured in love, become the infinite intelligent universe. Allow yourself to be that light in the world.
Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. It is a tremendous honor for me to welcome Donna Evans Strauss here into the show today. Donna is an expert on the human energy field and the healing sciences. Donna, it is truly a joy to have you here with us. I want to share a little bit about your background with the audience, if that's okay, for those that don't yet know you. Donna currently serves on the board and is the Dean of Year 2 Studies at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing in Florida and Japan. After graduating from the Barbara Brennan School of Healing herself in 1992, and by the way, for those of you who have not yet heard of Barbara Brennan and her work, she was a pioneer in the field of human energy consciousness studies. And the school that she developed is the School of Healing Sciences. So after Donna completed her studies and subsequent teacher training, she served as the department head of healing science. She later served as a dean and created the Brennan Integration Practitioner Program, which is a master's degree, a 2-year supervisory program specializing in psychoenergetic healing methods. Donna's other certifications include Pathwork Helper, past life therapy, Psychodrama training, and family systems training. And, I'm just so grateful that you're here with us. I know you have so many resources, your great books. Donna's the author of Blessings from 1,000 Generations, What Our Biblical Ancestors Can Teach Us About Healing Our Families Today, and the Cosmos ESP and the Human Biofield, and the soon-to-be-released Divine Genogram, The Cosmic Human Experience. Now, I met Donna through a training that I was a student of as part of Unity Academy. This is part of Bob Anderson's leadership circle training. And Donna was one of our instructors. And Donna, I learned so much from you on embodied presence, how to really harness energy, the human energy consciousness system for healing. So mental, physical, emotional healing. And it is a tremendous joy to have you here with us to share some of what I was privileged to learn with the rest of our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera, for inviting me to be with you today. It's such a pleasure. Yes.
So how about we start with what in the world is the human energy consciousness system?
Well, that's a good question because that's what I was thinking back in 1987 when I met Barbara and Brennan. I met her while I was studying at Hahnemann University, mental health technology. And I had a lot of curiosity about energy and consciousness and why I would know things. And I was just very curious. And this book, Hands of Light, was handed to me serendipitously by someone. And when I opened it, I was like, oh my, this is what I've been experiencing all along, but they're not teaching this at the university. And so I decided to attend an introductory course and met Barbara. And at that time, she was introducing a concept called the 4 dimensions of humankind. And I thought, what in the world is the 4 dimensions of humankind? I knew the physical. I felt physical. I knew we had emotions and feelings and thoughts, but I didn't know we had a human energy consciousness field. I didn't know that we had a Hara dimension. I never even heard of Hara line or Hara dimension, let alone heard that I had a core star. I was like, what is this lady talking about here in 1987? We have a core star. We have a Hara. We have a field that carries our emotions in it. It carries our thoughts, our spiritual lessons. It's like a memory field, and that it picks up information regardless of where we're at. And so I was like so moved by that work, and also really wanted to study the field of psychology that I decided to enter or take an introductory course with her. And then again, I entered her program and stayed at Hahnemann University at the same time. It's kind of like how I roll. I like to do a lot of things at the same time, but Hahnemann was not teaching the field of transpersonal studies at that time. They were just moving from Freudian psychology, psychoanalysis, into humanistic psychology and introducing family systems theory. And I was very impacted by family systems theory as well. And I introduced some of family systems theory into the Brennan School in 92 when I outlined my family and looked at the certain patterns that were traced over generations in my family. And that led me to a lot of the work that I do today and my passion for helping families heal. And also the book that you were talking about, Divine Genogram, is all about moving and shifting from the terminology, I come from a dysfunctional family, and looking at trauma from a new way and understanding that we are born of love and we have both positive and negative love bonds in our family. And that I save the word dysfunction for the high level abuse and traumas in family. And even there is positive and negative love bonds. Because what I learned from Barbara was that we're born from love and that love heals. And what I was teaching at the Unity Academy is that transfigurative love that comes from our core can change and transmute the traumas, the narratives that we carry. Each one of us carries stories about our childhood, thoughts about ourselves, feelings that feel unresolved. And when we can access this deep place of embodied presence, we can transfigure those patterns and live our best life today. So,
some of the people who are listening to you are craving some of that healing. Maybe there has been what might be considered dysfunction by many in their families, current or family of origin or intergenerationally. And they're really wanting to understand what you mean in terms of some of the things you introduced, core star, Hara line, some of that completely foreign. I know it was to me when I was first trained on this, by you. And so what I would love in our conversation today is for them to have a good understanding, not only of what these things mean, but also how they can apply it in their life to experience some of that love healing that you were referring to. But maybe before we get to that, I know you have a really kind of fascinating background about how you got to this and interest in family systems. Would you be willing to share with us just a little bit about your family of origin and what you experienced in your life?
Of course. All of us have a story to tell about our birth and our incarnation. And some people's stories can move us to tears. And when I was born in New Jersey to my mother and father in 1957. And at that time, when I was 9 months old, my father got custody of both of my brothers and myself. I do have memories at one moment of being in an orphanage for a short amount of time where my father came and picked me up. My brothers were not there. I was there. I understood later why that was, but I didn't understand at the moment what was going on. So that part of my life growing up, my father moved us from New Jersey to Tennessee and then to Indianapolis. And when I grew up, I did not know any grandparents, aunts, or uncles. I didn't know my mother. I didn't know anyone but this man that was raising us and my stepmother who he married, or a few stepmothers that he married. And so I was adjusting over time and thriving and living, but I was also going through different stages where when we were being cared for, we were in the childcare, we were abused as children and going through different traumatic events and memories that I held. Memories that I held in my child consciousness, which I later realized that some of my memories were not the memories that were true. They were memories that I formed around different events because of the level of my ability to think at that stage. So if an event happened at pre-operational thinking and my memory was around that time, I did not know the whole picture. I was just left with a memory of feeling unloved or uncared for or unbelieved. So as I grew up and moved to Indiana, and as I was growing up and I graduated from high school and I started working at, this will date me a little bit, RCA Records and Tapes, which no longer exists. And, right. And then I started working for Guide Lamp after RCA Records and Tapes, and I got laid off. And when I was laid off, this is one of little miracle that happens in your life. A friend of mine's brother said, we're playing a game of Othello, and he says, don't just sit around while you're laid off. Go be a big sister at the children's home. I had not known the significance of that moment. I went to the children's home to be a big sister. And they asked me if I would become the weekend coordinator for activities for the children that were left there and their parents were not coming to see them. So I said, sure, I'll do that. And I was having fun. And then the next thing I know, they asked me if I'll be a counselor in the juvenile center. And I'm like, I don't even have a counseling degree, but okay, I'll go and do that. And I didn't go back to Guide Lamp when I was called back to work. I was working at the juvenile center. And while I was working at the juvenile center, this was the miracle of life. And everybody has a story where some force is carrying you through your life or overseeing your life. And as I was working at the juvenile center, this girl, it was 9:00 in the evening, tried to commit suicide. She had cut her wrist with a light bulb. She broke a light bulb. So I brought her into the office and I cleaned her up and I was taking her back to her room and we were talking and she was upset because she was 13 years old and she had a pimp. And she really wanted to go back to Ohio and be with this person who she felt loved her, okay, because that's the only place that she had felt loved. So after hearing that story, I went into the office. I was the only one working. There wasn't a shift change at that time. The shift didn't change till 10:00. So I'm writing up the report and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to help these children that are here. I have a young boy that's written bad checks. I have this young girl who tried to commit suicide. And as I did that, I looked up and for the first time, I saw 2 rows of Bibles on both sides of the door in the bookcase. And I'm like, what are those 2? I never saw those in the office before. And I went and I picked one up and I put it on the table and I said, dear Lord, I don't know how to help your children. I'm just a child myself. I'm a wounded child. I don't know what to do here. And at that time, when that happened, the buzzer for the juvenile center rang outside. And I thought, oh no, like the police didn't call. Usually nobody comes out there. This is in the middle of the woods in Mounds Park. The police didn't call. They're not bringing. It's not a shift change. I don't know who would be there. So I pressed the buzzer. And I said, the intercom, and I said, who's there? And I hear the voice, and the man on the other side says, my name is Pastor Fields, and I was driving by. I wanted to know if I could come and help you with the children at the juvenile center. I said, what? And I looked at the Bible on the desk, and I looked at the door, and I don't know, like maybe I shouldn't have opened the door because it was a stranger, but I opened the door, and I said, you're not going to believe this. And I showed him the Bible and I said, come on in, let me talk to you. And so he came in and he said, I would love to. I've been driving by every night for the past couple months and I wanted to stop in and I just never felt like it was the right time. So there it was again. How does prayer work? Like, how did I say that prayer? And then he hear it. What's that mechanism? That was curiosity in my mind. So he came in, I got to know him. And he got to know me. And he asked me about my mother. And I shared with him that I had been separated from my mother when I was 9 months old, that I had never met her, that I didn't know any aunts, uncles, anybody in my family, only my father. and that there were secrets in our family that had never been told. So he took this poetry that I had written about my mother, and I said, I'm sitting under the old oak tree. I wonder if my mom thinks of me. Things that children write when they feel alone. Like, you feel like if your mother didn't love you and she wasn't around, who's going to love you? Even though my father, I knew that he loved me. So I shared them with him. He took those and prayed on those and returned them. And within 3 months, I got a letter from one of my dad's ex-wives saying that my mother was looking for her three children, that they found this letter that was in Grandma Yates's, when Grandma Yates passed away, they found a letter that was sent to Grandma Yates looking for her three children. So that letter was found through the power of prayer. So I'm not going to go further into that story, but there is lots more to that story. That was my first 22 years of my life was a painful but spiritual journey. It brought me to where I am today, and the work that I do with people around their own family systems, around embodied presence, around finding the light within. Underneath all those stories and underneath the trauma, through Barbara's work, understanding about where the core star exists, where your Hara dimension exists, what's in your human energy consciousness field, and then our physical body. Many of us think of physical body first, but our physical body is energy now. Physicists now say that our physical body is denser frequency of energy and consciousness. So I'm really excited about being with you, Barrett, and sharing the pleasure of embodied presence.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing this extraordinary story. I imagine that, those listening have had some moments where they thought of someone or prayed for something, or not even in the religious perspective of praying necessarily, just kind of asking, like, I need help here. And then help shows up in some way. So let's start with the human energy consciousness field or system. What exactly is that?
Well, the system, in Barbara's model, she called it the 4 dimensions of humankind. So we have to contemplate ourselves as dimensional beings, that we have consciousness on different dimensions. And so we're used to being on the physical dimension, where everybody knows I'm a physical body. We can touch this. That's something we can touch. Then we come to know that we have this aura, or people say they have an aura around them, or I get a special feeling around that person. Well, in Hands of Light, Barbara describes the auric field as, from the 7 chakra perspective, we have 7 chakras and 7 different levels to the human energy field. And the human energy field was coined by Pierre Desjardins, which is a Jesuit priest back in the 1950s. And so the human energy consciousness field, Barbara says, you can't separate consciousness and energy. They come hand in hand. So every level of the field has a physical level, an emotional level, a mental level, a relational level, a spiritual level. And as above, so below, we have higher levels of our consciousness. And then we have what we call lower levels of our consciousness, our normal reasoning faculties, our feelings about ourselves, the ones that are rational and the ones that are irrational. And then we have our relational field, relations that go well, relationships that don't go well. And all of that energy and consciousness are in this memory field around you. It's also in the memory family field. The family has a memory field. It's also embedded in the DNA. Bruce Lipton, I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but the biology of belief.
He's a guest on the podcast. Mm-hmm.
Yes, he talks about, when in the late 1990s, early 2000, I utilized his book teaching the master's degree program because he was one of the most fascinating beings and still is very fascinating. He's the first person to say that when they started to look at DNA, they would look at DNA and take away the fluid around the DNA. And they would, they were deciding, okay, what is the DNA sequencing? But Bruce Lipton said the fluid around the DNA holds the consciousness around the DNA. Your emotions, those feelings are in that fluid aspect of the DNA. And Barbara's model shows that we are structured, we have structured levels and fluid levels. Our emotional bodies are very fluid, our mental bodies are very structured, and our physical body is structured. It's based upon what they call in acupuncture, the lines of light, and acupuncturists show those lines. So that's the human energy consciousness field. Now let's talk about the hara. The hara is a dimension deeper in everyone. It's when we can go deeper inside and align our intention to something. And you see martial artists, I talk about the hara. When martial artists do a kata, they go in, and then all of a sudden they're moving in this dimension where you're like, where is that coming from? And where is that force where they can break a board? Where is that force where they can break bricks? And when in 1989 with Barbara, she brought someone into our class who was doing a kata. His name was Levent. And she had us watch him to demonstrate that we all have a hara dimension. We have to learn to access that point inside of us. But as he did that, she turned around and she said, well, if he's in his hara now, what are you doing with your hara right now? And she went around the room, and it was fascinating to watch her scientific mind, because she was also a physicist and worked for NASA. So her model is very much grounded in science. She walked around and goes, oh, you're kind of like out of your body. You're kind of pulled back. So she started reading how and what was going on with our hara, and how our hara line had a lot to do with our health and well-being. And then she developed exercises where we could shift our consciousness a dimension deeper to feel that presence. So she labeled different points on that system. 2 inches below the navel, she named the Tantian. She talked about the Tantian grounding us to our great Mother Earth, and that we have a line of light going directly down into the Mother Earth. And each of us have a soul seed, a longing for why we were here. Why did we come? Why did we incarnate? I truly believe we incarnated as a blessing to our family. We may not think of that after we got here, but I truly believe that you came to bring your light into this world. And so we also have a point above our head, which she called the ID point. I call it the incarnation point. We incarnated into that dimension of consciousness before we took up this body. So our hara line is a dimension deeper. And it also is very much connected to our core light, the divine spark that every ancient system talks about. You are the light of the world. Every person listening to your podcast in this moment is a blessing upon this planet, was a blessing to their family, and is the light upon this world. And I truly don't believe that we fully have brought our blessing or our light in, because what happens is we hit that place of trauma where we think we weren't good enough, or we believe we're unlovable, or we weren't welcomed here, and then we split off. And so finding our way back home is not to go up and out, not to become dependent, is to go deep inside, to have a conversation with the light within. And Christ said, do not hide your light under a bushel. Do not hide your light under a lot of familial trauma. Do not hide it under that. Bring your light into the trauma, not only in your own life and your family, but into the world. Be a blessing. And yes, it may be a struggle. My life wasn't easy coming in and trying to unravel the story and the narratives and all those stories, but to find the truth that we truly are cosmic beings, beautiful beings of light, of grace, of love. That no child is ever born out of Nowhere. They're born from light and love. Within every individual in the divine spark is transfigurative love, is the infinite intelligent universe. It's all the wisdom and access inside of you. I don't know about you, Vera, but when I was little, nobody said that, you were born of light. Now, in church, they said, to sing the little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, right? Hey, but when I was little, when I sang that song, it was something in my mind, but I didn't feel it in my body. Today, I feel it in my body, an embodied presence of light. And I began to learn to trust that light and learn to access the divine trust. Divine trust. And my model for the divine genogram and in Blessings from 1,000 Generations, I talk about 7 divine qualities that if we restore them within our system, that we will become the light of the world. And one of those divine qualities is trust versus mistrust. When we awaken that we are given divine trust, we don't make more trust in the world. And the reason I say this and I teach people this is because in one moment you could trust somebody, you pick up a baby and you're like, oh, you're in this beautiful blessing with that baby and you're feeling the illumination. And in the next minute, somebody walks in the room. Maybe it's your mother-in-law, maybe it's your father-in-law, maybe it's somebody that you have had some kind of argument with. And then all of a sudden you shut down. It's like the hose just turned off. Trust didn't go anywhere. You turned it off. I won't trust you. I won't trust in this moment. And maybe it's based upon a wounding from the past where you were invaded or hurt, and maybe it's just an argument of today where I'm not going to trust or love you right here. But trusting go anywhere is a core quality. It's a divine quality that comes from the grace of divinity from within. It is permeated throughout the universe. You also see it in the story of Moses when he goes up to the top of the mount. And he is up at the top of the mount and he receives the 10 commandments. Those commandments, we look at them today, and I looked at them as somebody finger wagging at me. Like, oh, don't do this and do this. A lot of don'ts and do's. Right? And when I realized they were not something for the outside, they were something to take you inside. There shall be no other gods before me. There shall be nothing between me and the light within me. I shall not have anything, not my husband, not my rules, not my car, not my trauma, nothing between the divine. And when you remove the barriers between you and the divine, and that means taking away and dissolving. Barbara talked about dissolving your stories, dissolving your narratives into the core of your being, allowing the light within you to dissolve those misconceptions about who you are, those painful stories you've carried your whole entire life. And become the embodied presence, become transfigured love, become the infinite intelligent universe. Allow yourself to be that light in the world.
And, on this podcast, Donna, we've had guests that have spoken about how to release some of those blockages or barriers between us and what might be called our higher self or the divine, as you say. And I'm curious right now about if we focus inward and we uncover what some of those stories might be, and get curious as to whether those stories are true or not true. Like you mentioned, when you were sharing your background, that you had told yourself some stories from a vantage point of a young child that only had some of the perspective, but, not all, because you could only understand what, you could understand at that age, right, or access to. When we challenge maybe some of those stories, or investigate some of those stories from a curious mindset, we can uncover certain mindsets that are not actually true, and in doing so, of course, work to dissolve them. I guess what I'm curious about is for those people that are listening to you and are saying, "Okay, I get that um, that we're all interconnected in some way,
Mhm.
and that I may be disconnected from maybe a higher or spiritual part of myself because I don't always feel of the light and of love. Um, what can I do in my very busy life to be able to access some of that, to feel some of that divine energy, to feel these positive emotions that I so crave?"
Well, there's a couple different things that we can do. One of them that I created using Bruce Lipton's work and also Dr. Amen's work and working with the deep limbic system in the brain. Many times we record things through our system and we replay patterns. And if you understand the limbic system in the brain, we have what I think is kind of cute. It's like a singlet gyrus. And it's like a railroad station that goes back and forth and back and forth, and it plays over and over again. And my father used to say, like the broken record, the skip in the record. And sometimes we have to go in consciously to that skip in the record or to that replay button, pick up the needle one ridge to play the rest of our song. And so for some of the people that I worked with or have worked with, trust is a foundational um, restoration, healing restoration. It opens all of us up in many different ways. If we don't trust, we can't open our heart. If we can't, if we don't trust, we can't open our eyes to see people in a beautiful way. If we don't trust, we can't open our ears to hear from a deeper perspective. So one of the meditations that I do with people is like an I am mantra or chant that they can do at any time to recognize it's not to erase mistrust, but it is to recognize where I am mistrusting in life. And we can do that exercise here if you would like with your audience. And what I like people to do is place both feet on the ground and just from the conversation that we've had today, just notice if any story or narrative became activated in you. And I say the word activation, and I don't say that lightly because I changed the word trigger as well. I leave the word trigger for a gun, and I've used the word activation for like, why am I getting all overwhelmed? What's going on in me? And so when you get activated or something was activated in our talking today, it's like going inside, becoming grounded. We're going to do a little exercise. First, putting your feet on the floor. I'm going to have everybody take their fingertips and also place them 2 inches below their navel. And just feel a line of light going from that, what we call the Tantian point, down to the earth. Take a few deep breaths. That was a lot. And I'm just taking a breath because I shared a lot about my history. When we share a lot about who we are, both the positive and the challenges that we can start to feel in our body different pulses. So just become aware of the pulses in your body and breathe. Inhaling through your nose and expanding your belly, and exhaling through your mouth. And once you see that energy line going from that point at your underneath your navel down to the center of the earth, just imagine yourself grounding to the great Mother Earth. You may even want to let out a sigh. Letting out a sigh just releases tension in the body. Ah, And as I said earlier, we can just take your left hand and place it on your high heart area and just imagine your own soul seat there. Your own individual longing. Every person listening today came into incarnation to bring their light, their love in this world, and also to heal. And then aligning your intention above your head, just feeling a line of light above your head to your soul seat and then to your Tantian. And just take another few deep cleansing breaths. Ah. And I just want you to say with me for one moment, I trust in the I am that I am. I trust in the I am that I am. And if that's uncomfortable for you, you can say, I trust in the light that I am. And just for one moment, just feel if that resonates with you or any part in your body or in your system you sense mistrust. Wait a minute, I don't trust. I want you to, for the moment, just imagine that scenario in your life where you may have been hurt, where trust was broken. Don't try to make it go away. Just notice how that plays out in your mind. And you might even say, I don't trust this person. I don't trust that I'm safe. I don't trust. Whatever it is, allow yourself to say that. I don't trust that you're going to be there for me. Just let that out. Don't try to censor anything. And then move back into I trust in the I am that I am. And this time I want you to breathe it from the bottom of your belly all the way up into the top of your head. I trust in the I am that I am, bringing the I am consciousness into the center of your brain. I trust in the I am that I am. And let out any mistrust. Breathing that in again. I trust in the I am that I am. Breathing it all the way up into the center of the brain because we want the limbic system to let go of the mistrust. Your mind would say, I don't trust this process. This is not working. Let your mind just say that. Don't censor it. Just let it say whatever it needs to say. And then come back down to the base of your spine, to your lower belly. Breathing in, I trust in the I am that I am. I trust in the light that I am. Breathing that up into the center of your brain. Breathing it out of your crown and then breathing it down to the ground and around again to the root of your being. I trust in the I am that I am. I trust in the light that I am. Breathe it in again. Maybe anger comes up this time. Whatever it is, let that just come out. I'm angry. I'm angry because my trust was broken. Just breathe that out. Breathing it out. It's a divine quality. I trust in the I am that I am. Breathing it up the center of your body. Breathing it into the center of your brain. Maybe you're afraid to trust. Maybe fear comes up. Let that fear out. I'm afraid I'm going to be alone. Just let it out. And then breathing in trust again. I trust in the light that I am. I trust in this core light, the truth of who I am, and breathe that in the center of your brain, breathing it into the deep limbic system. And just letting go of any anxiety of mistrust, letting go of the mistrust. And one more time, breathing in trust that I am that I am, to trust the light inside of me, to come all the way through me and up inside of my deep limbic system. The center of your brain being marinated in trust. Can you allow your brain to feel trust? Feeling that trust is a core quality. It's a divine quality. That when you were born with all this trust to come here, to attach, to be a human being. And then just breathe one more time, breathing in. I trust in the I am that I am. I trust in the light that I am. And yes, if there's fear that comes up, just allow yourself to move that fear through the top of your head and out. Maybe there wasn't anyone you could trust. Just letting that go. Nobody was here for me. You don't understand. Let it go. Let it go. And then coming back again, one more time, breathing through that fear. Have the courage to trust in the light that I am. And just filling the center of your brain, the whole center of your being with the light of who you are. That you can reclaim the light. You can dissolve the trauma and create this divine quality that emerges from deep within you as a co-creative process of healing. It's your divine right to trust in the light of who you are. It's your birthright to trust in the light of who you are. It's your divine right to allow divine grace to flow through you and into your deep limbic system. And if you feel blocked in any place, some people may feel blocked in your throat. It's hard for you to even say these words. Just allow the trust to come into the center of the ferret. It's my divine right to speak my truth, to trust in the light that is within me. And then just taking a moment to come back to yourself, come back to center here, and just know that any moment throughout the day, you can take a deep breath. When you feel like you're in anxiety, your nervous system is on override, you're not trusting anything, you feel a tremendous amount of fear, you can use this mantra to come back to yourself. Quietly, I trust in the light that I am. Going deep inside of yourself, not outside to look for trust. Going deep inside of yourself. to feel yourself full with the light coming from within. And when you want to have embodied presence is restoring the divine qualities within you. It is listening deeply to the call within to dissolve the illusions that separate you from the divine. But you truly are a blessing. You're a cosmic being filled with light to bring blessings on this earth, to help with the evolution of this earth and this planet. To embody the divine qualities within takes time, space, and patience to dissolve the illusions and to recognize your painful experiences and not let them convince you that you're less than who you are. Then it's really important to recognize our spiritual truth. And healing can start at home. And home means home. And if you can't find that place inside of you, if you're listening, having some friend or someone that you care about reminds you of who you are. That everyone has somebody that may have looked at them with that light in the eye to remember, I'm here for you, and reach out to a loved one. And if you're not seeing the light in somebody else, remember to change the way that you're looking at them. Can I see through the eyes of trust? Can I listen through the ears of trust? Can I open myself to be an embodied divine presence?
Thank you.
Thank you. When we chant, it's really powerful. And when we try to be in balance with the polarities inside of us, is where the healing comes to that center, the middle way. That we don't have to be either or. It's being in the center of both and.
Yeah, I think that's the secret right there.
Yeah.
To accept, all the parts of us, if you will, and to find that light, um, that can dissolve all those blockages. And I thank you for taking us through that, because when you were guiding, I can say for me personally, me through that, and saying, notice if there's a part of you that's angry, or there's a part of you that doesn't trust, that actually made visible some parts of me that I think were unconscious. And rather than, pushing it away, you're like, breathe it in and breathe out, right? The light, going back to the light. I trust the light. Yeah, I trust the light inside me. I trust him. And I just, it was so profound to be able to be with some of those shadows, if you will, in a safe way, and to have a process to be with them and to let them go, knowing that the light inside of us can, is trustworthy, and that will be okay.
And that we don't have to reject a part of ourselves. Many of us feel guilty for the feelings that we have when we say to ourselves, we should never be afraid, or I'm never going to trust again, or I should never get angry. And many of us don't even know how to have healthy anger because we were abused as a child and we said, oh, I'm never going to behave like that. But we don't even know how to express anger. So when anger comes up, we don't even trust ourselves around it. So being able just to see it, to feel the polarity, it's not that polarity on this planet isn't going to exist. It's like, how do I come into the center of that polarity with loving kindness, with respect for my journey?
Donna, the timing of this is just so interesting. Just yesterday, I was doing a workshop about polarities, and I titled it The Heart of War, A Path to Peace in a Polarized World. And I
Mhm.
spoke about polarities and what happens when we've got these extreme beliefs and it becomes polarization, and how important it is to hold that both and mindset and things like that. And it really does go back to the heart, that light. And I so thank you for taking us through that exercise, because many of us are like, okay, how do I do this? Give me a tool, give me a process, a technique.
Yeah.
And yeah. And, there's something also that you said at the end of that around being that light for other people. And I think that that's important. Just today, my husband texted myself and our 3 daughters, and he was talking about how one of his patients, um, uh, lost his 26-year-old daughter to suicide during COVID. And he kind of said in the text, I want all of you to know that you're never alone. We have one another. Kind of a reminder of, no matter how maybe in life, there may be moments where things are really dark and you feel really alone, or you feel really disconnected and everything is not going well, let's say. And you're not alone, if it, and it really touched my heart. And so my invitation for, those listening is really to remember that they are not alone, both on the inside, because they can trust that light inside of them that's always there, and that, there are people that when they ask for help, just like you helped that young woman, just like you asked for help and that priest showed up at the door. I mean, we're not.
Help shows up even when you don't believe. You're like, I didn't believe at that moment in prayer. My girlfriend, when I met her that evening, I'm telling her what happened. She's like, oh, Donna, just have another drink. Like, that's this crazy stuff, but we're still BFFs, right? 52 years later or something, and we're still great friends. It's just sort of like, oh, it does happen. And where does it come from? I don't know. I really like the infinite intelligent universe. Something happens when our innocent prayer goes out
Yeah.
for help.
Yeah. And, we've had guests on the show, who've spoken a little bit around the science of that. We've talked about global consciousness and, had guests on the show that spoke about that collective intelligence from a scientific perspective and some of the research that's been done. And so we know it exists. We know it's real. What HeartMath called non-local intuition, that guidance that comes into the heart. So I know we're almost complete here. There is something that you mentioned earlier, the core star, that I would love very briefly if you can mention what that is for our listeners, and how they might, utilize, if you will, or that concept, that part of them.
Well, and this was the most challenging concept for me when I went to school, and it is for most people because we're not taught that we are light beings before we incarnate. And the core star is dimensions deeper inside of us. So the light of who we are, we're not looking outside of us to find that light. We need to look deep inside of us through the black velvet void of our beingness. They know that in physics, we're space and empty space. And inside of us, dimensions deeper, is the light of who we are. And in the divine genogram, I talk about the 7 stages of incarnation. And the first stage is being that light in the universe. And Jungian psychology and all the ancient mystics talk about us being the divine, shut off all divine sparks from itself. And that we are within every individuated being and all sentient life is this divine spark, consciousness of divinity. And in this lifetime, we get to express it as a human being. So here we are, and we have direct access. I always thought I needed to go to somebody. Even when I went to Barbara, I thought the light was in her and not in me. She said, "You have a light inside of you." I thought the lady was crazy. I'm like, I'm just here. I'm following along, but I'm not getting it until it happened, until I felt my core essence. So one of the places to pray, like I didn't even know that space inside of myself. And if you don't know it, when I went inside, I felt all my wounding. I felt the darkness. I felt the shame. I felt unloved and cared for. Even though my father cared for me and all that story, I felt that if my mother didn't care for me, then, why would I ever be cared for? So when I went inside, that's what I felt. So I needed to go underneath what Barbara later called the mud, go underneath the mud that becomes the minerals for your core essence to be birthed, that you have to go beneath that space, right? And if you ever want to remind yourself of your core essence, go and look at babies in a nursery. That's when it happened for me. I was looking at babies in a nursery, looking for my niece, looking for the little Strauss. And all of a sudden I heard a voice telling me, "Donna." And I stopped. "There has never been anything wrong with you. You're as innocent as every baby in this room." And I started to weep, and I felt the almost like blessings coming from all those babies. And I just wept and wept and wept. And it was almost like, felt like centuries of stuff just melted off. And I was like, wow, I was born this way. Every baby is born this way. And we go through profound forgetting. But don't look outside of yourself. It's deeper. That core story is deeper inside of you, underneath the stories. And what Barbara talks about in Core Light Healing, our stories just are our creations. We just take our energy and fold it in and on itself. And that's just frozen time, a frozen story in time. And when you start to unravel that mystery, all of a sudden, the light that's folded in on itself gets freed up. I'm free to be me. Yes, that event happened to me. Yes, those things happened. And I feel really great about myself. I'm not carrying shame. Yeah. So you let go of those things and to have somebody that's willing to walk with you on the journey. Because when 1987, some people thought I was a little nuts going out of Hahnemann Medical School, and why aren't you going this way? Why are you working for the Brennan School? And it was the best choice. Like I felt like I was being guided by listening. And I said this before, by listening deeply and following the heart pulse of that listening to every decision I've made, even if it felt like it was in the wrong path, led me to here with you.
Mhm. And I'm so grateful that you're here with me and with all of us. Thank you, Donna. Thank you for guiding us through that beautiful uh, process. Thank you for all the insights. And how can people learn even more about your amazing resources? I know you've written many articles, obviously the books, you've got trainings.
That they can go to DonnaEvansStrauss.com, my website, but also the Unity Academy, the Leadership Circle. We have this wonderful program that we're offering the next few years here and in the UK, working with Bob Anderson in that program and a couple other great teachers that will be with us and doing Aikido. And Joel will be with us, and Chris will be with us, and we're going to have a wonderful time. And we had a great launching this first week that we were together. And so, if just take a look at the website and see if something has interests you and join us because this is a journey of evolution for humanity. We're in a paradigm shift coming from a physical reality or an auric field reality, even a horror reality from the heart line, intentional reality, to move to a core essence, an embodied presence reality, which is going to evolve the world. And it starts by dissolving the illusions around our polarity and bringing those, we can have differences, right? We can have differences. Those what makes us unique. We don't want to be automatons that look like each other. We don't want to be AI generated people. We want to have our differences, but we also want to listen and be with and imagine everybody's core presence, how much illuminated light collectively that we could create for humanity to change the world, to change some of the challenges we have today if we come together in that compassionate place, in that embodied presence. And that's what the Unity Academy is about.
Yeah, and as a student of the Unity Academy, I do highly, highly recommend that people attend that to learn the science behind this unity and to practice tools and techniques to help them feel even more of that within them and to be able to radiate that out to others, to their family members, their teams, their communities, countries, and ultimately our planet. So thank you so much, Donna. Just a huge hug to you for your beautiful light and your important work. And of course, by extension to, to Barbara, the late Barbara Brennan, for her contribution to humanity.
Yeah. And thank you, Bear, for having this program that reaches so many people and brings so many people together to really hear about what's happening in the evolution of consciousness in the world. How are things changing? What are the paradigm shifts that are happening? When I listen to your podcast, that's what I hear. It's like you're a change maker. You're one of the people moving consciousness into new thought experiments, right? And
We all do our part. Thank you.
yes, welcome.
Hey, game changers, it's Vered. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Donna Evans Strauss and especially the guided practice that she took us through. Maybe you experienced an even deeper connection to yourself or the spiritual aspects of yourself. If you would like to learn even more about the intersection of spirituality and science, I invite you to check out episode 119 with Dr. Patrick Scott. Who also happened to be an instructor of mine, and that was for a Huna training, ancient Hawaiian Huna training. Dr. Scott was my kumu for that. So hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. Stay nice and curious, and always give yourself a whole lot of love, and of course, a whole lot of grace for just being human. And thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.